guys, it's Reagan and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. With this reading vlog, I feel like in part I'm vlogging because I'm hoping it will make me make a decision. That's right, I have TBR paralysis. I'm not sure what it is I feel like reading, so I've selected 3 books that are kind of all wildly different from one another, and I'm hoping maybe I'll just read a lot. We'll read a lot, or maybe this whole TBR situation will pivot entirely. But without further ado, let's chat about the books I hope to read. So the first book I have to show off here, I don't have too much left, about 200 pages worth, and that is Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. This is the first bind-up of the Rhaenyra Revelation series, which is 2 different books. I started this kind of impulsively after I finished The Legends of the First Empire. I wasn't quite ready to let this author's writing and world go. So I've been reading this and I will give you my thoughts and feelings in a minute. I also hope to read in this vlog the entirety of Silver Nitrate. This will predominantly be, I think, like my main book for this vlog. This is Sylvia Moreno Garcia's like new occult horror story that I have been dying to pick up ever since I saw it announced. It is now out in the world and it's not too long, so I feel like I should hopefully be able to fly through this. And then lastly, I also have started The Spear That Cuts Through Water, so I want to make more progress on this book. So far, I'm really enjoying the writing style and the overall vibe, so my hope is I'll be able to finish both of these and get a little bit further into this and not stray, but I'm unsure about the straying part. But I'm looking forward to this TBR. I'm looking forward to vlogging per usual, but I think it might just be like the time of year. It's not quite fall, not even close, but I feel like I'm like craving fall vibes. But there's still books that are like on my summer TBR that I want to get to. So I think my brain, which is very much like mood reading centric, is just not able to completely pinpoint what it is I feel like reading. And I feel like until maybe mid to end of August, it's going to be kind of all over the place, but you know, we're just gonna try our best. I am looking forward to all 3 of these books here. The good news is I am looking forward to all 3 of these books, so that is good news, and hopefully will keep me focused and not deviate too strongly off of this TBR. I know I sometimes pivot even in the midst of a reading vlog, so I apologize for that if I don't end up getting to a book that I, initially planned to read, but I promise it's not, I wish I wasn't like this too. But anyway, welcome to the start of this vlog where my indecisive self is gonna try to work herself through an actual TBR. Cheers. Alrighty, it's time to make lunch. I'm gonna make some adult Lunchables. I'm also gonna play some Evermore because I was feeling moody today. So I'm gonna shuffle play some of this album because it is my favorite and do some chopping. Lunch is served. Guys, I've let so much time pass, but I did acquire a sweet treat, but I don't even know what I've been doing. Well, I did work, and then I was like, oh, I'll go on TikTok for a second, and now I've just been crying to Barbie edits. The longer the movie sits with me, like the more emotional it's made me, and I just feel like I cry at the drop of a pin. I'm just like sobbing. Anyway, I'm gonna read more Theft of Swords. I don't know, I'm literally tearing up right now. Pause. Anyway, I'm gonna pick up more Theft of Swords. I'm gonna try to read a chunk of this. As I said, I had 200 pages of this book left. This is actually a great book for me to read right now because I find this book to be incredibly comforting, and as clearly I'm an emotional mess, I could use some comfort at the moment. But the Rhaenyra Revelations, I keep calling it Chronicles, it's the Rhaenyra Revelations series, is actually the first series released by Michael J. Sullivan. He also technically recommends reading them in publication order, but this series, as I said, follows Royce and Hadrian as they go out and they're basically like mercenaries for hire. They have a really fun dynamic. The setup and plot line of the first one is pretty straightforward. They're basically framed for a crime they did not commit, and they have to go on a quest and adventure to like clear their name and save the kingdom. That's the first one. I vlogged the first one. The second one, as I mentioned in my previous vlog too, is a similar, it's kind of like Quest of the Week vibes, but the politics carry over. So while it feels like a similar structure and it features like different issues. Everything, you get the sense that everything is sort of interconnected. And this one, basically they're hired by a young girl, they travel to this village and there's like this beast that's attacking the village and they're trying to figure out what is going on. I've been enjoying this one because I feel like the setup of it is one that just feels very familiar to me as a fantasy reader. I'm also very familiar with this world because I read the Legends of the First Empire series, so the Easter eggs, even though in reverse, has been a lot of fun for me. I just read on the back that the first 2 books were self-published and then the rest of the books are picked up by Orbit, so I'm also curious. I feel like I've heard that the books, the bind-ups get better and better. This first bind-up is 2 separate books, so I'm on, as I said, the second book where they're basically hired by, again, to try to defeat this beast in this small town. I'm trying to read through this quickly. Again, this is not the main point of this vlog, but I do want to finish it because I have a habit of like not finishing books, jumping to other books. I'm trying to not do that, so I'm gonna finish this before I move on to Silver Nitrate, which I'm really excited about. So we're going to finish this. I finally get the title. It's called Theft of Swords because each book has to center around a sword, which is interesting, but we're gonna get to reading now. Hello, I'm changed because we're gonna go watch the US, I'm trying to show you my dress, the US women's soccer team for the Women's World Cup. We're gonna go meet some friends and watch that. I also wanted to let y'all know I've read 60 pages of the second book in Theft of Swords, which I'm definitely nearing the end. And it's good. I think my thoughts are staying pretty consistent with this. Like, I think both of them are kind of writing 3.5 stars. Enjoyable, endearing, homey for me, but like not mind-boggling in any capacity, but I'm gonna keep reading and trucking along. I am curious to see how this whole thing is gonna wrap up. Some of these plot lines, specifically in book 2, are very apparent from the Legends of the First Empire, which I think is cool, and I'm enjoying those Easter egg elements. But again, you definitely don't need to read one to read the other. They're contained series. But anywho, my goal still is to finish this tonight so I can switch over to Silver Nitrate tomorrow and really focus my attention, my energy on that book because I'm so excited about it. But there you go. We're about to head out to watch some soccer. It's so hot outside. It's Texas. The sun's going down. It's gonna be more bearable. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles around here. So anyway, toodaloo. Gus! Oh, Gus found a corgi that he likes.
Too many.
You have like 3 Baileys. We are back home and I'm already in PJs from watching the Women's World Cup game with friends, which was super fun. And I am now going to do some more reading, as again, my goal is to try to finish this so I can pivot to Silver Nitrate tomorrow, which I could not be more excited about reading. Hi, guys, good morning. I have a reading update for you. I'm almost embarrassed to say what time of the day it is because I woke up this morning so productive. And I finished Theft of Swords, which we're about to get into. And then I had this idea for a TikTok. It was like a rant about Fourth Wing and how people always just like to compare every book to Game of Thrones and fantasy marketing and how it drives me crazy. And I was like, this will be quick. I'm gonna film this really quick. I spent an hour and a half on it. I wasted my whole morning filming that one TikTok, which I'm gonna link below because gosh darn it, it took me so much time. But anyway, I finished Theft of Swords. So that means I've also read 200 pages for this vlog, which I'm honestly pretty pleased with. I liked the second book in the Theft of Swords series more than the first one. I think that in large part was because I'm already settling in a bit with the characters, and I feel like the strength of the series is the characters. The plotline I would still say was pretty standard. Was still interesting. It basically is centering around like kind of a evil monster that needs to be killed, and we're kind of running into some older characters we've seen before, which I thought was great, but alongside this beast that is tormenting the land, I feel like we got a little more insight on not only our main characters too, but also the larger fantasy plot line that's at play. Again, this series is not one that's blowing my mind, but as I keep consistently saying, it's like very comforting just based on like how it's utilizing some fantasy tropes. Michael J. Sullivan's writing is like very homey to me. I love how classic it is. It's just like a really great time. Adrian and Royce root this series well, and I also felt like the escalation of the plot near the end was pretty entertaining, and I was like curious to see what was going to happen next. I wasn't sure how the plot was going to kind of pay off, and obviously there was another like big old twist at the end. And so I'm very curious to see where the plot's gonna take us next. Again, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this because it's not the point of this vlog, but I have read 200 pages and we're moving on to Silver Nitrate today, which I'm really looking forward to, but I need to get some work done before I can justify doing any amount of reading because I wasted so much time filming that TikTok. So goodbye. Hello folks, it is well past lunchtime, so I'm gonna make a tovala, which I luckily have in my fridge because I don't have the energy to think about cooking my own lunch today. I also have decided I'm gonna have double pasta. Pasta for lunch, pasta for dinner. Could not be more excited. So for lunch, I have penne alla vodka, divine. So we're just gonna pull out, this is actually a 2-pack, so I'm just gonna pull out one, pop it in my little oven, and enjoy. I could not be more excited. And away it goes. I will be back here in 22 minutes, and in the meantime, we're gonna get more work done. And my pasta is done. Time to transfer it into this bowl, and now it's time to watch some Sonia and Luann reality TV. Hi friends, I've officially finished up with work for the day. It is later in the evening. It was honestly a bit of a weird day, but I'm gonna try to not let that snowball into having a weird night. 2 positive things of note though. The first is I got a Halloween pillow in the mail and I'm truly obsessed with it. Look at this guy. Look at this giant jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. Thriving, loving him. I'm not gonna decorate for Halloween or fall until after my wedding, but that doesn't mean I'm not prepping for it, you know what I mean? And the other positive thing is that I'm actually gonna sit down now and start Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And this is said to be, I think, like horror and occult, like 70s horror movies. I don't know. The author always has such unique premises for her stories. They're all so different, but the consistency is that I always enjoy them so much. So I'm gonna start this tonight, get a good chunk read. Obviously, I've already read 200 pages, which I think is pretty solid. And I'm really excited to get going with this and share all of my thoughts and feelings because I feel like it's going to garner a lot of them. I feel like this is gonna be an experience. I mean, the cover is incredible. So let's get started. Hello, I have read a quick 30 pages of Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and unsurprisingly, I am very intrigued and interested by this book. So this book is set in the 90s in Mexico City, and it's very much following the film scene. So far, I have read from 2 main characters' point of views that know each other and are childhood friends and have kind of grown up with each other. First is Montserrat. And she is a very, very talented sound editor, and she edits all different types of things for movies, TV shows, commercials, and the like. But she's struggling in the boys club that is very much the film scene in Mexico City. Not to mention the film scene in general, it has been very much on the decline. There's not been much investment or interest in it at this like time period. In the city, so she's also just kind of struggling to find work, while also having to confront like office sexism and just lack of mobility, all of these things. The other character we follow, again, is her like childhood best friend. His name is Tristan, and he is like a very handsome man. And he was once like a pretty well-known actor, like not a movie star, but was in soap operas. But some type of tragic accident left him with a bad face injury and also kind of ruined his reputation. And now he's in his late 30s. And his career is like very struggling. So you're kind of introduced to both these characters. You kind of get initially situated in their lives. You can tell that they're very passionate about film. They're obviously involved around film, but they're also kind of struggling in their life in various ways, like money, the world, everything has sort of been pressing down on them. And a chance encounter in Tristan's new apartment building, he basically runs into a very famous cult horror director from like the 50s and 60s, and he and Montserrat are like huge fans of this director because again they're like big film buffs. He like strikes up conversation with him, then they're invited over to dinner to like hang out with him, and I think the story is kind of going to evolve from here. I'm sure the film cult horror film sort of situation is going to continue to be very front and center in this book. I've not read very much. I like that this book is dual POV. I always feel like this author often has really interesting characters that are flawed but still likable and interesting in a lot of instances. I think this sort of 90s film scene setting is super cool. And I always love reading books centering people who are like passionate about a topic, like any topic. And I think that's definitely going to be this. So the first 30 pages I read quickly. Definitely a genre change for me. I feel like I've been reading a lot of fantasy, so it's kind of nice to pick something up that's a little different. I'll definitely be reading more of this today, but I need to run to the store with Clay to pick up some stuff to make dinner. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna buy, but something quick, tasty. I'm still aligned with my double pasta feature for today, so we gotta make that happen. But Silver Nitrate, so far so good. Grocery haul. We are back. I'm about to start making a quick and easy dinner, but let's do a haul. So first off, star of the show, 3 cheese ravioli, H-E-B brand, obviously. Also refilled on our Noosa's. Clay and I are very obsessed with Noosa's. Strawberry rhubarb for Clay, raspberry for me. And then my current hyperfixation snack is seaweed. So I got, you know, a bunch of these. Not really a bunch, 4. But I'm trying out teriyaki and chili lime. They were on sale. Some pancetta to fry up with the raviolis. Marinara sauce. Broccoli. A Dr. Pepper. Very Texas core. And another Noosa. And this was $400. Just kidding. Dinner is ready. I also have some broccoli too. I have laundered and it's now time to go read in bed. I feel like this book could be spooky. I don't know why I just put that together, but this is like kind of about occult horror films too. But it could be a vibe. It's prepping me for the fall spirit, you know? You know? Necessary. So now it's time to go bribe Matilda to come hang out with me and we're gonna go read in bed. Millie, do you wanna come read with me in bed? Come on. Let's go. No dice. Oh.
She listens to my grunts.
Good morning, everyone. Matilda's favorite time of the day. Breakfast time. First, we have to get her bowl, which she has had her entire life. We got it, Millie. It's been achieved. Okay, go. Come on, we know where to go. Let's go. And then for me, we have a good mug selection this morning. A lot of them are clean. It's time for some coffee, and then I'm gonna go read some more Silver Nitrate. Hi friends, good morning. Let's do a reading update of Silver Nitrate because I have read 100 pages. I wanna say I'm like a third, maybe a little over a third of the way through this book. I'm really liking this book. I'm not shocked to be saying it because I just love this author so much. Books are always such a blast as well because everyone just feels different, but she has definitely some elements of like a signature style. I feel like she loves a buildup and then the feeling of everything sort of going out of control. And I feel like that's definitely occurring here. Like the first chunk of this book I've read has definitely been a slow burn, but I can't help but to feel like this story is gonna quickly become spooky and very unhinged. But I'm liking everything about it. So as I said, this book very much centers movies and the entertainment industry. Our 2 main characters are childhood friends that are both involved within the movie making business. One is more behind the scenes from an editing point of view and the other is an actor. They have a very long and complicated friendship, and what I like about not only their perspectives but also their relationship as rooting this book is like they at times don't like each other, but they also have such a long history that they would both call the other if they like needed to bury a body, for example. Like they might not like each other on a daily basis, but there is no scenario in which they wouldn't be present in the other's life. And they are supportive of one another, but they also have that relationship of childhood that is like irreplaceable when creating a foundation for a relationship, which I think is so interesting. I also find both of the main characters likable. They're definitely flawed people, but I think for the most part, they're very easy to root for. I think this is in contrast for some of Silvia Moreno Garcia's other books. I'd say most of her characters are likable, but that's not always a guarantee. Like for example, Velvet Was the Night, we had 2 very more unlikable main characters, which I also really enjoyed. But in contrast to that, I would say these characters are more likable. But I'm obsessed with how much film and movies are centering this book. Not only is it such like a specific passionate thing that all of these characters that are involved in the story feel deeply connected to, but as a culture, as a society, film is such a huge part of our existence too, and this is definitely playing on that. So basically these two characters begin chatting with this director who was very popular back in the day, and he begins sharing all of these, you know, glamorous stories of the film scene of the past. And he also basically begins to talk about this like eccentric and dark reality of occultism that existed in Mexico, but in also other places in the world, and how he was working on his last project with this like German guy who moved to Mexico, ties to occultism, tied to likely Nazism, and he basically was trying to make a spell within a movie, but something happened in the creation of the movie that has resulted in everyone involved to be cursed, and he's wanting to like finish it, and he's appealing to our two main characters to help him do so. Both of them are very curious about the project for a variety of reasons. Montserrat, who works again behind the scenes from an editing point of view, is obsessed with old occult horror movies and really enjoys this director's work in particular, and the mystery and the mythos surrounding this lost film that was never completed is a mystery that she simply cannot let go. So even though it has this weird like connection to occultism, she is like too curious to not finish it, and she's also hoping to sell the information as a project to help pay her bills, because again, she's having a hard time having consistent work in the editing studio despite how talented she is. And our other main character, Tristan, I really feel like is just involved because Montserrat is involved and he's bored and curious. He has a much more like childlike temperament, and in some ways he's like easily blown into various directions, and I think he's trying to run from elements of his own life, and this is like a good distraction. Basically would be like how I would describe his motivations. But the book is weird. The setup and premise is very strange, but I feel like it's working, and I feel like it's going to result in a very unhinged like back half of the story, especially with the movie and like this tying to occultism. I'm also kind of enjoying the glamorous flashbacks of the movie scene of Mexico of a previous generation, particularly because both of our main characters work in film and it's set again in the 90s, and how they're kind of describing the current reality as more of a low point. So thinking about one, how film used to be made in the materials using silver nitrate, for example, but also just the scene and the creativity that used to exist then is interesting, but also how some of those groups were tied to very dark, suspicious, strange, evil groups as well, and how that kind of seeped into the movie making process too. It just has a lot of interesting influences going on. I obviously love the author's writing, and I'm just very curious about this one. I could honestly say I have no idea where this book is going, but a cursed film is being finished, and I'm just gonna have to see what happens next. But so far so good. 100 pages have been read. I've read 300 pages so far for this vlog, which is not bad. I need to get dressed, I need to get ready for the day and do some work, but I definitely plan to read more of this book later on. I feel like the slowest part of the book I have just read, and everything else is going to be like, you know when you're like, I've like crested the exposition and it's just gonna be like, woo! I feel like it's gonna be a ride is all I'll say. Anyway, that's my reading update. That's all I've got. Sylvia Moreno Garcia can just do no wrong in my eyes. I just really enjoy her books. And they're all so flippin' different from one another, like so many different influences, so many different concepts and ideas that she's constantly exploring, and I'm obsessed. A little fall OOTD. I filmed a fall related video, so I put on a little crew neck sweater for the occasion to film. Obviously I'm gonna change because it's 100 degrees outside, but I thought I would just film it for a second and pretend like I could actually be wearing this cute little crew neck sweater, but alas. Meal 3 of pasta only. More vodka pasta from Tovala. It was a 2-pack, so it was a very exciting discovery when I opened this up, when I realized I could have it for 2 days in a row. Lunch is served. Alrighty, I'm gonna spend the rest of the day reading, so I'm gonna make myself a little Friday latte, which is ultra exciting. Favorite part is when I do the handle And I get a little green smiley face. Perfect. This always makes me feel so professional. Especially this dial. She's a coffee maker. Alrighty, latte made. It's time to go read about horror movies. It's so interesting to me how my ability to consume like scary things is very different depending on the media. Like I cannot watch any scary movies. Pretty much like I can do thrillers and stuff, but like horror movies I cannot do. But I've discovered that I can do scary leaning books. Like I can't do like probably the scariest book in the world, but some I can. I don't know if it's because my imagination just like doesn't go there versus in watching a movie, like they force the visuals on me, or like it's more controllable, or there's no jump scares in scary books. I feel like jump scares have to be a big part of it, but it's interesting. Does anyone else like that? Like you can read it, but you can't watch it? I don't know. Let me know. I'm curious. But now I'm gonna read more Silver Nitrate, and I'm really looking forward to it. Y'all, my heart is racing. Okay, I have read another 50 pages, so I'm halfway through, a little over halfway through this book. I'm gonna read more. I've definitely reached a point of like everything is really starting to unwind and spiral. But take a step back. Oh, this book is so good. So it's doing so many interesting things to its success, in my opinion. So obviously, we have these three people brought together to finish this film from the past that's supposedly magic and will like break a curse. Most of the people, our two main characters, are involved in this project not because they actually think anything is going to happen, but they're kind of curious about it because it's a strange situation from the past. So they're doing it and they completed it. And then all of a sudden some stuff started to happen in their lives that was lucky. But with any event, there's always going to be consequences, and those consequences are starting to play out. And there's also a clear mystery from the past. A lot of people who like consider themselves magic users, I guess, attached to it, and it has a history, and people with power, like it abruptly ended for a reason, and like there's clearly something much larger going on related to this film. So there's this like terror and thriller element of as the sequence of events begin to spiral out of control, all associated kind of with this film and this magic and all of those things. What also is going on too is we're getting more context and background, especially through our main character, Montessori, because she's trying to unpack and understand the primary magic user who wanted to create, the German who wanted to create this film to begin with. Like understand his like philosophy, his magic, who he was, because there's just a lot of mystery and mythos surrounding him. And in doing this, she also just gets much more familiar with occultists of this time period in general and from the past. And it's just like so unsettling because the idea of magic and ritual existing across cultures is definitely a thing, but in particular we're focusing on a group of predominantly white men wanting to, one, create their own magic, but also warping it in such a way to fit their own philosophical ideals. And so like the whole thing just feels like so eerie and uncomfortable, which is obviously what the author is trying to accomplish. It almost feels like satanic in nature, but like what the nexus of power is like kind of unclear, but you just get this feeling that like whatever these people are doing feels like a warped and dark version of magic, and it's just like, ooh, spooky times. And also as our main characters learn more, and by proxy we learn more, like more things are like unlocked, but it also leads to more questions. And also the intensity of the present day storyline also begins to escalate. Like what starts out as what feels like just a project between jobs and like really three lonely people looking to, I don't know, get something from this, either it's companionship or something to do. I also feel like the story works so well because you like the main characters too. They're both so desperately lonely and their relationship is so interesting to read about. One is so lonely that he reaches out to anything and anyone, desperately trying to pull them to him and like not let them go. While the other is so lonely she like shuts the world out completely. And yes, I'm just liking this book quite a bit. It's like startling, it's shocking, it's like uneasy. I feel uncomfy while reading it, and it's starting to like pick up, you know, and I'm a little spooked out. I'm reaching the point where this might be difficult for me to read at night. I'm getting really spooked out. I don't know what, like I should have known this was gonna be spooky based on the synopsis, but I was a fool. Great news. I finally put on summer appropriate clothes because Clay and I are about to go to dinner. We're gonna get some Tex-Mex, one of our favorites. Also, before I leave though, have the dust jacket back on because 2/3 done with Silver Nitrate. I've passed the 200-page mark. This book is bananas. I am holding my breath reading it. I am so I get so nervous. It's also like truly leaning into like the occult, dark magic, that sort of vibe to it, which I think works so well. I also feel like the slower pacing and the amount of time that the author allowed to sort of build up the plot, introduce us to the characters and kind of the overall premise of this world before slowly turning things upside down also really worked, because we, just like our characters, like don't want to think anything with the occult is real. Like we are rational, normal human beings. This is the stuff of the past. Like we have progressed beyond this. We are now modern people, blah, blah, blah. We have new technology, these types of things. So yeah, we can interact with these things from the past and nothing bad's gonna happen. And then bad stuff begins to happen and it kind of just like jolts you a little bit. But I really like watching our characters interact with this. I am very unsettled. I'm very unsure of where this book is going and how it's going to end, but I feel like it's going to be a wild time and I'm here for it and I can't wait to figure it out. But now it's time to go eat some enchiladas. Sounds delicious. Your meal. I restarted the tennis documentary so I could watch it with Clay from the beginning. If you didn't know, Clay actually played a lot of tennis. Not anymore. How many years of tennis did you play, Clay? How many years is that? A lot of years?
A lot of years. 7 years. Beginning high school, four-year letterman.
It is time to read more Silver Nitrate. I made Clay come and read with me because this book is too scary for me to read alone at night. But I'm also a chicken. I wouldn't say this is like the most horrifying book I've ever read, but also I don't read a lot of scary things. Good morning. We have acquired bagels. Divine. Hello everyone. So, great progress. I have about 65 pages of this book left and I am so intrigued by this. I feel like if you've read and enjoyed Night Film, which is a book I have also read, it's a horror film centering around horror movies, you would love this book. They're not similar, but they definitely live in the same vibe category. The magic in this book is really starting to escalate and there's so many different power players as I've mentioned and everything is getting twistier, but we are starting to get reveals. It's unsettling. Again, the main characters are reading the story so well. I'm really just fascinated by their relationship dynamic and I feel like that paired alongside all of these like supernatural banana stuff happening is just creating a really compelling book. I'm gonna go sit down now and actually finish it. I got myself a coffee. Hold on. Coffee has been acquired. A latte because it's the weekend. I bought it. And then we're gonna read. I'm gonna read right now. So, cheers. I finished. 315 pages have been read. I really liked this book. I felt like it had the perfect amount of horror for someone like me. I loved the escalation of the plot. The pacing in every regard I felt like really kept me interested, and I'm not talking just like plot pacing, magic pacing, the mystery pacing, but even watching the relationship arc of our two main characters. There was a lot of like individual healing. They have such a long history, so there was like a lot of self-reflection and also how they reflected on their own relationship, and because we're reading from both of their point of views, you could see them both processing what was going on and kind of learning and appreciating different things about each other, kind of like old dogs learning new tricks in, again, such a long relationship. But I found that to be so compelling. I also really appreciated that like temptation was a big part of this book, and kind of taking the easy way out was a big part of this book. And a large part of this story was our characters like confronting that and not doing that. And in a large part of their lives, both of these characters have been doing that, holding on to things or falling into certain behaviors because they don't want to face a hard truth maybe about themselves. And then this is also reflected in magic, where a lot of sorcerers in this world use magic to, you know, gain power, you know, gain wealth, gain fame, gain beauty, all of these things through the use of power and the sacrifice of other people. Our main characters are more sacrificing themselves, I would say, their happiness, their well-being, and not others. And that's the clear difference. They're not, you know, evil, they're just sad. But I don't know, there's a lot of things about sacrifice in this book, like literally, and also what we sacrifice in ourselves because we don't feel like we're worth it too, which I thought was really compelling. This book also balanced like almost like a heartwarming-ish character dynamic with like a really dark and spooky story. I loved the setting. I was compelled by it. I feel like the whole thing wrapped up in a really interesting way. This is definitely a standalone. I just really enjoyed the whole plot progression. I loved it. I loved it a lot. I just really love this author's writing. I feel like she just includes so many different things in her plot lines, and I'm always just entertained, to say the least. And Silver Nitrate is no different. I think I'd give this book like a 4 stars. Definitely a solid read. Definitely recommend it. I honestly love Tristane and Montserrat so much. I love them. They grew on me too. They grew on themselves and they grew on me. Anyway, it was a great time. Alrighty, now that I have finished Silver Nitrate, I'm going to squeeze in a few more pages of The Spear That Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez before I finish up and round out this vlog. This has to be one of the most uniquely written fantasy books I've ever read. Structurally, it is so cool and so unique. It's basically like a story within a story. We're being told a story, someone else is being told a story, and the intertwining of these different narratives just make it fascinating and so beautiful. I'm not super far. I'm also kind of at the tail end of this vlog, so I'm only gonna read a bit more, but I wanted to give a special shout out because this book is literally stunning, so unique. But yeah, let's read. Hello friends, and welcome to the end of the vlog. Let's wrap up everything I was able to read over the course of this reading vlog. 3 books, 3 incredible books, all amazing for different reasons, also very, very different vibes if I'm being honest. And just in general, a lot of pages were consumed. All in all, I read just under 600 pages, which I don't think is too bad. But without further ado, let's talk about the book. So obviously I read the last 200-ish pages of Theft of Swords, the second installment within this bind-up of the Rhaenyra Chronicles. Similar thoughts to what I've been saying about this entire bind-up. I find it really enjoyable and fun. I like our 2 main characters. The ending of this was actually particularly explosive. I feel like we got more of a look into the world building and like where the series will be kind of like gearing towards for the next and later installments. Makes me very excited to pick up the next bind up within this series. And then obviously I picked up and read the entirety of Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia. One of my all-time favorite authors, one of my most anticipated releases of the year. Set in the 90s in Mexico City, we follow our main characters as they unknowingly get involved with a cursed movie film and pulled in deeper and deeper into dark magic, and there's all these different figures from the film scene of the past, and it was a wild ride, a great way to kind of lean into my desire for fall vibes, because this was dark, it was brooding, it had great characters to root the story. This author always comes up with such interesting concepts to root her stories and always has such dynamic and fascinating characters that are all so different from one another. I truly never know what to expect when I pick up one of these authors' books. I feel like she just can go in so many different directions with her plots, which I just adore. Her writing style and how punchy everything is. I just really enjoyed this, which I anticipated. And I feel like if you love like creepy, dark stories that are spooky, but I could handle this. I wouldn't say it's like so unbelievably scary, but definitely has a lot of ambiance and magic. You should read this, especially if you love movies. It was so good. I'd give this like a 4.25 out of 5 stars, I want to say. And then lastly, I was able to squeeze in 50 pages of The Spear That Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This book is so beautiful and fascinating. It's like very hard to describe what this book is about, and a large part of experiencing it is like just trying to piece together the narrative and just enjoying the beautiful structure that the author has created. Similar to kind of what I would say about the 5th season. Like the 5th season is like an experience, and like so is this book. But so to take a step back, it's kind of like 2 things, all right? First, we are following kind of a mythos style story set in a fantasy world, a very grim and dark fantasy world ruled by a very evil emperor who has very powerful magic, and he has sons that are also terrible and evil. They're literally called the Terrors, and they also have evil and powerful magic, and they kind of rule the kingdom with an iron fist. The reason why they're able to do this though is because they have a god trapped in their castle, and the god in this book escapes, and that's kind of the story, but it's like a myth-based story. Like, that's how it feels like when you're reading it, because this is like a story within a story within a story. We follow our main character who feels like they're set in some type of turn of the century setting. He's been told all of these stories by his grandmother, and we're like reading the experience of him being told these tales by his Lola, but then also we're reading and experience him telling these tales in this very strange, like, performance setting, but all of the layers of these stories are like overlap. The experience of telling and hearing these stories are overlapped. We are listening and learning from the perspective of our main character. We're listening and learning as the perspective of being an audience as he's telling the tales, and then we're also like consuming the tale and the characters' perspectives as things sort of move along. It's so unusual and it works so effectively. I am pulled in so much. It's so interesting. I'm not like crazy far in this book. I've only really read the first part, but like I feel like this is what I'm gonna like slowly make my way through and just enjoy every single second of it, because the writing is like chef's kiss amazing. You know what I mean? Alrighty guys, that is everything I was able to read over the course of this vlog. Not too shabby. 3 amazing books that I'm excited to have been able to feature, but I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye.